Hello, welcome to Confessions of a Frustrated Game Master. I am Robert, the narrator, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Confessions. Well, I should say I am slightly bored, Robert, the narrator. I haven't run my Vampire Nation Cypher System game in about 3.5 weeks. It'll be 4 weeks since my last session. A session was canceled, of course, because of the holidays. You know, folks are spending time with their families, so I had to cancel one session. So I've been a little bored, a little stir crazy, I guess. So I thought I'd come on and make a character, do character creation for a game system that I've been working on. I call Rise. And this is not my fantasy heartbreaker that I've been working on for 15 plus years. This is a science fiction post-apocalyptic setting that I came up with. I've had this system for about 2 years as a little side thing I was dabbling with. It's a D8, D12 system. I figured I wanted to make one because you don't see a lot of systems that focus on those die. And I also added some other things that are setting specific to the system that I had, and I'll talk about that. But I want to go ahead and talk about Rise. And what I thought I'd do is I thought I would make John McClane, Bruce Willis's character from the iconic action movie franchise Die Hard, make him in my game, personality-wise, you know, and so forth. I would go ahead and make him in the game, and I'll talk a little bit about the setting. So this is what I wrote down as kind of my elevator pitch for the setting. Rise is set in Earth's future 175 years from today, but only 50 years after two highly advanced alien species have used the Earth as an arena. These species were not locked in war, but locked in an ancient competition. In this competition, they travel the universe looking for habitable host worlds and capable of resisting their technological might. Then, the betting, the games, and the devastation begins. For months, the two species challenge one another in events testing their physical and technological prowess. There is only one winner, and it is never the host world. Now, Earth lies in ruins. Humankind struggles for survival, divided into tribal enclaves, and from this, your character must rise. From the laser-scorched landscapes and nanobot swarm-scarred wastes, you must rise. From vast, strange, abandoned alien ruins, you must rise. From the desperate and dangerous last cities of humanity, you must rise. From the savage politics and blood-soaked power struggles of the tribes. From the fear of the unknown and undiscovered. From the brink of humankind's extinction, you must rise. Whoa, very dramatic. So that's kind of the elevator pitch of the setting. So as I said, it's kind of a science fiction post-apocalyptic setting. Think Mad Max and Terminator Salvation smushed together. At least I hope that the setting is better, at least for the Terminator Salvation side. I thought Mad Max Fury Road was an amazing movie. But yeah, it's kind of a gritty, desperate, hard setting. The characters are part of these tribal enclaves trying to survive this post-apocalyptic setting, and they are trying to survive and climb up the ladders of power in this setting to just to survive. And the thing that I added to the D8, D12 system that I had, which was setting specific, are these 6 things that I'm calling virtues. And this is my cool little Star Wars pin. I think my fiance got me these either last Christmas or my last birthday, or this is a Star Wars pencil. So I'm using that here. So you have 6 virtues in the game. And the 6 virtues are aggression, diplomacy, honor, deceit, leadership, and collaboration. And just a quick story of how why I added these to the game is I've always wanted to do a game in which a alignment-like mechanic, as you find in D&D, was core to the game and really meant something to the system and the setting. So I came up with, I call them virtues. I don't know if that's a good name for them, but I call them virtues, and these are very central to the core of the game. Aggression, diplomacy, honor, deceit, leadership, and collaboration. And if you look at these, you'll see that all of them have what I call attributes attached to them. So for aggression, you have athletics, hand-to-hand fighting, intimidation, melee weapons, physique, range weapons. For diplomacy, you have gather information, negotiation, telepathy. For honor, you have biokinesis, persuasion, willpower. For deceit, you have deception, security system, stealth, streetwise, and thievery. And if I can get to it here, for leadership, you have inspiration, knowledge, survival, tactics, telekinesis. And for collaboration, you have animalism, medicine, piloting, and repair. So those are the virtues in the game that are very important. And as you can imagine, a lot of these apply to the setting because it is, as I said, it's a hard setting. Sometimes you have to fight and kill to survive. So determining what type of character your character is can be very important for the setting. Being aggressive or being diplomatic, being honorable, can individuals trust your word? Leadership, are you a good leader? Collaboration, a lot of what you'll find, what I call attributes. Some of them would be considered skills in other games, but I call them attributes, can be really great for a community. You know, being able to handle animals, being able to do medicine, piloting vehicles, repair, those are all good for a community. So all of these are really important and feed into the setting, and they are central to the game in an easy way to define your character's beliefs and what motivates your character and your character's personality. And I think that anyone can understand them. Maybe unlike alignment, even someone who isn't a role player can look at these virtues and go, oh, this is the type of person that this character is. And with all of the attributes which are central to the game, all of them start at a D8 -1 rank. And as you can see from this nice little chart here that I have on the character sheet, they advance up the scale, starting from D8 -1, then they go to D8, then they go to D12, then they go to a D8, D12 rank, and then the next advance will give you 2 expertise points. Now, expertise points are related to all of the attributes, and the expertise points allow you to use special maneuvers and tricks. It's basically a pool of points that you can spend and that that come back after a while that allow you to do special maneuvers. So that's kind of the basis for the game right there. So I'll start the character creation process right now. And again, I'm trying to make John McClane. I'm sorry. Rest in peace, John McClane. John McClane from Die Hard fame. So the first thing you do is you choose your virtues. So your virtues, as I said, are very central to the game. And when you start making your character, you get three pools of points. You get 7 points, you get 5 points, and you get 3 points. Now, the first thing you do is you want to take a look at the pairing of virtues. So aggression is paired with diplomacy, honor is paired with deceit, leadership is paired with collaboration. And you want to figure out which one of these virtues are most important to your character. And then after you figure that out, you want to take those 7 points and divide them amongst the pairing, the pairing of attributes that has the attribute that is most important to your character. So John McClane. So we have aggression, diplomacy, honor, deceit, leadership, and collaboration. So I think that of all of these, what I call virtues, the virtue that probably really defines John McClane was his aggression. He was a really competent fighter. He was really good with the gun. He was athletic. You know, he was running around and so forth, and jumping and shooting and firing. So I'm going to say that aggression is probably the virtue that most defines John McClane. So with aggression, you have diplomacy. Now, John McClane didn't quite strike me as a very diplomatic guy. He was, you know, having issues with his wife, and it didn't seem that if I'm remembering correctly, he didn't seem like he was capable of taking the super diplomatic approach. He was not the most friendly of guys. So yeah, I'm definitely going to say that he was more aggressive than anything else. So what you do is you can divide that 7 points amongst those two virtues, that virtue pairing. And the only restriction is you have to have at least 1 point in one of the virtues. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 5 in his aggression, and I'm going to put 2 in his diplomacy. And the reason I'm putting 2 in diplomacy is you have gather information here. So he was a police officer, and he definitely seemed that he was good at least had some skill in gathering information. So I just don't want to put a 1 there. I'm going to put a 2 there because I believe that as a police officer, and he may have shown in the movie that he was good at gathering information. So he had a little bit of diplomatic skill, but not a ton. So 5 in aggression, 2 in diplomacy. That's going to be good, I think. Now, one other thing that I'll mention is if you look at the advancement chart here, the way that attributes advance, as I said, right now, all of your attributes are at a D8 -1. And when you get what is called an advance in an attribute, you'll see that later in character creation, the attributes increase in rank. So everything is D8 -1 now. If you get an advance, it'll go up to D8. Then D12, then D8, D12, and then any further advances will give you 2 expertise points in that particular attribute. So the other way that virtues are important in the game is they also limit the number of advances any attribute under that virtue can have. So that's the other reason that I'm putting 2 in John McClane's diplomacy, because 2 advances will get him up to a D12 if I wanted to get his gather information up that high. So I'm putting a 2 there at least so that he can have some gather information. And what you'll see is the game definitely leads you in a certain direction with the decisions that you make, but it doesn't force you to be kind of a one-trick pony. Because John McClane is aggressive doesn't mean that he can't have a decent rank in any of the diplomacy attributes, but it definitely does limit how great they can be. So I'm just going to go ahead and move forward. So now what we have is honor and deceit, leadership, and collaboration. Now, John McClane didn't strike me as a super great leader. He definitely was a smart guy. But when it comes to, you know, under leadership, you have inspiration, knowledge, survival, tactics, telekinesis. I don't remember him having telekinesis. And the reason that telekinesis is under leadership is I justified by thinking to myself, a leader is has a very forceful personality. They are definitely able to make things happen with just the force of their personality, getting people to follow them, inspiring people. So the idea of someone who has such a forceful personality being able to apply that mental force to the point where they can master actually moving physical objects with thought alone, it made sense to me. So that is why, of anything else here, that's why telekinesis is under leadership. And John McClane didn't seem super collaborative with me, to me. So I think honor and deceit, I want to focus on that. So again, the three pools of points you get for your virtues to spend on your virtues is 7 points, which we've already spent, 5 points, and 3 points. So I'm going to put the 5 points, I'm going to divide that amongst the pairing of honor and deceit. And I think that John McClane definitely was an honorable guy. He put his life on the line for his wife and those innocent people that were being terrorized. So I think he was a really honorable guy. And he also had a little bit of deceit in him. He was able to deceive, and he was good at sneaking around. He was good at deception when he hid the firearm behind his back at the end of the movie. So I'm going to think he was close to as honorable and as deceitful. So I'm going to, with 5 points, I'm going to go ahead and put 3 points in his deception and 2 points in his honor. You really could do either one, but I'm going to go ahead and do that because it's only 5 points. So get it as close to an even split as possible. And then finally, you have 3 points to split amongst your virtues. I'm going to say that, so you have inspiration, knowledge, survival, you have animal handling, medicine, piloting, repair, riding. Of the attributes that are under these, I think leadership, he had more things that would fall under leadership. So you have 3 points. So I'm going to go ahead and put 2 in leadership and 1 finally in his collaboration. So he has an aggression of 5, a diplomacy of 2, honor 2, deceit 3, leadership 2, and collaboration 1. So I've gone ahead, first step in character creation, and divided that up amongst his virtues. So virtues also have an effect on the game beyond character creation, and virtues offer benefits during the game. And I have a section here that lets you know how these virtues act during the game. Now, in the game, you have what are called virtue abilities. And these are the ways that the virtues have meaning during gameplay. And I'll go over them really quickly. So aggression, the aggression virtue ability is you can spend an experience point to increase damage from one of your attacks by the whatever your aggression score is. Then you have the collaboration. Collaboration allows you, the virtual ability for collaboration allows you to find clues in a particular area. Deceit allows you to do damage in an attack to a surprised opponent equal to your deceit virtue score. Diplomacy affects how affects you having contacts. You can say during gameplay that if a particular situation pops up, you can declare that you have a contact, and based on your diplomacy rating, you can get a contact that is based around your diplomacy rating. Leadership, you can get followers, and honor, people tend to trust you more. So I'm going to say that I think that of all the ones that make the most sense, John McClane probably would have aggression. And also, you have to have at least 4 in a virtue to get the virtue ability. So I'm going to go ahead here. Aggression. I'm just writing too quickly. Aggression. You know how aggression is spelled. And I'll put spend 1 dev point to do aggression score and damage with an attack. Okay, cool. So yeah, I misspelled aggression, but whatever. You get the idea. So that is his virtue ability, aggression, because yeah, John McClane definitely was an action hero, and he was really good at being aggressive. So that's the one that makes the most sense to me. Next is step number 3 is choose your path. Now, a path is a career. It is the character's role in his tribe. Your path will give you advances in a number of attributes. You will also receive your total defense scores, record that information. So, getting advances, as I said, you already know how attributes advance. When you get an advance, now right now everything, as I said, is at a D8 -1. And when you get an advance, it works its way up this chart. Now, these are basically your character classes. There are 7 what I call paths in the game. And I'll let you know what they are. So you have the leadership path. Leadership gives you 2 advances in inspiration, an advance in knowledge, an advance in melee weapons or ranged weapons, 2 advances in tactics, and an advance in willpower. That doesn't really, I don't think that one hits the spot for John McClane, really. Then you have a scrapper. A scrapper is kind of an individual that goes out into the wastes and finds technology and finds other things. A scrapper gets an advance in the knowledge attribute, piloting attribute, 2 advances in repair, 2 advances in security systems, and an advance in survival. So that really doesn't sound like John McClane to me either. Scout. A scout, you know, goes out, leads the party, tracks, and so forth. And a scout gets an advance in animal handling, an advance in athletics, physique, 2 in stealth, and 2 in survival. Now, oddly enough, that really appeals to me, and we'll come back to that one. Shadow is kind of a roguish, kind of thievish career. And a shadow gets an advance in athletics, melee weapons, security systems, 2 in stealth, and 2 in thievery. Shaman is not even worth talking about. A shaman. A shaman focuses on having psionic abilities. And a war brother is kind of the fighter career. And a war brother gets an advance in athletics, 2 advances in either hand-to-hand fighting or ranged weapons, an advance in intimidation, 2 in melee weapons, and 1 in physique. So I think that either war brother or scout for John McClane. And scout makes a lot of sense to me because he definitely showed some athleticism in the movie, and he definitely showed the ability to stealth around. Now, animal handling, you know, he really didn't show any particular affinity for animals, but he definitely showed the ability to survive. So the 2 advances in survival also makes sense to me. I think it makes more sense than War Brother, maybe, because the War Brother doesn't have any stealth in it and doesn't have any survival. And he definitely did display those more than anything else. So I think that John McClane was definitely more of a scout than a fighter. And though he had fighting ability, and you can always get that later in the process. So either way, whichever one I go with, I'm either going to have to go War Brother and have intimidation, which I don't think makes sense for John McClane. He didn't show that he was particularly intimidating, or go with scout and get his weapon skills later in the process. And that kind of makes more sense for me. So I'm going to go scout. So what I'm going to do is right here under path, I'm going to write scout. And then the character's name is John McClane. I haven't written down McClane. I don't know if that's the correct spelling, but anyway. And I'm going to give him his advances. So a scout. Yeah, I think that I like that. I like scout for John McClane. He has an advance in animal handling. So his animal handling goes from a D8 -1 to a D8. I'm just going to write it lightly in case it changes. He has athletics. He definitely had athletics in the movie. Jumping around, running and shooting at the same time. Jumping and running. Athletics. Physique. I think he seemed like he was in good physical shape. You know, he cut his feet up and was beaten and bashed and still was able to keep operating. You know, he wasn't Arnold Schwarzenegger or anything, but he seemed like he was in good physical health. Stealth, yeah, stealthing around. He gets 2 advances in stealth, so that goes to D12. And survival, he definitely seemed like he had some survivability. He knew his way around surviving. What was that? A piece of paper fell there. So I'm going to go with survival, and he gets 2 advances in survival, so that goes from a D8 -1 to a D8 to a D12. D12. So he can't get any more advances in survival because he already has his 2. And survival is under leadership because of the setting, and so he can't get any more advances under there. So I think that's pretty good. And also what you have is your path gives you your totals and your defenses. So these are the 5 defenses for the game. Dodge, parry, psionic, social, and illusion. They're basically fixed defensive stats. You roll the appropriate attribute when you're attacking, and you roll against that fixed defense. Illusion defense is, I really like the idea of that. Illusion defense is your character's defense against being surprised. So in this game, you don't have the situation where you ask characters to roll for perception, so they know, oh no, something is coming. Essentially, when a bad guy is trying to sneak up on a hero, I can just roll the bad guy's stealth against the character's illusion defense, and I can know if they snuck up on the character or not, so that I never have to ask the players for a roll for perception. And also, if they have to find like a clue or something, notice something that isn't a living, breathing thing that's trying to avoid them, I don't make an arbitrary target number. I also roll either a D8 or D12 or D8 and a D12 based on how well hidden the clue or trap is. So it's, you know, it's not a situation with perception or passive perception in other settings where you can set a number and then everybody is just out of the running. It's always random, and it goes against the character's illusion defense. And I really, I think that's pretty good, if I must say so myself, if I can toot my own horn. And so for a scout has a 6 dodge, a 5 parry, a 5 psionic defense, a 5 social defense, and a 7 in illusion defense. So they can notice things. And I think that makes sense. John was really a perceptive guy. I really love the scene where he gave the one terrorist a gun. Well, he gave the main the main bad guy a gun who was attempting to act like he was a hostage, and he gave him an empty gun because, you know, he was very perceptive and he felt that something was wrong. And so, yeah, I think that a scout is perfect for John McClane. So the next step in the process, I want to speed this up here so this won't be super long. The next step in the process is to choose birth sign right here. So I wanted to have kind of like astrological signs in the game. Now, anthropologically, I'll have to talk to an anthropologist to see if it makes sense that if the Earth was devastated by aliens 50 years ago, could these tribal enclaves develop from this devastation? And could societies pop up where they have developed their own astrological signs? They have done away with the old astrological signs. I don't know if that's possible, but I think it's cool to have birth signs in the game. So I came up with a couple of birth signs. And basically, what it says is every child is born under a sign. Your sign dictates your destiny and what gifts you bring to the world. Those gifts are represented by your attributes. Randomly roll or choose your birth sign and divide the number of expertise points listed between the attributes of the listed virtues. So you can randomly roll or you can choose, and I'm going to choose because I'm trying to build a particular character. But your birth sign gives you expertise points. And as I mentioned, all attributes have expertise points, and there are what are called maneuvers in the game. And each attribute has a list of maneuvers, and you can do these maneuvers by spending expertise points. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 birth signs in the game is I have Emblem of Dominion, which is kind of the leadership birth sign. Oath Sigil, which is the honor birth sign. Peacemaker, which is the diplomacy birth sign. Concealing Moon, which is the birth sign for deceit. Symbol of Communion is the symbol for collaboration. The war sign is the symbol for aggression. And I also have Alien. So you can design your own alien in the game. And all of the other birth signs give you 12 expertise points to divide amongst the attribute that the birth sign is associated with. But if you choose to be an alien, you choose 2 alien abilities and you get 4 expertise points to put in any divide amongst any of the attributes you would like. And I'll just go over some of the really quickly. He's not going to be an alien because John McClane wasn't an alien as far as I know. But I have chameleon skin, claws, immense strength, infrared vision, plated skin, psionic affinity, teleportation, or wall crawling. So those are kind of the abilities that you can choose if you decide to be an alien or if you randomly roll that you're an alien. But I think that probably the birth sign that makes the most sense is probably the war sign for John McClane. Yeah, I think the war sign is, and you don't have to, you can have a path that is different from your birth sign. You don't have to go with your birth sign and you don't have to match those up. As a matter of fact, it can be completely random. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide 12 expertise points amongst the attributes under aggression. So John McClane was good with a gun. So I'm going to go ahead and put 6 expertise points under ranged weapons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What else was he good at? He was good at athletics. So I'm going to put 3 expertise points under athletics. And he was also good he was not bad with his hands. So I'm going to put 3 under hand-to-hand fighting. So that's what I'm going to do for John McClane's birth sign. And then the next part of the character creation process is step 5, determine life events. So what it says here is find your virtue with the highest score from the charts immediately below and choose an event or randomly roll one from the chart. Record the advance. So you get an advance from a life event that happened to you, and aggression is his highest virtue, so it would be a life event for aggression. And I am going to randomly roll that. Let me grab a die really quickly. I'm going to randomly roll that. Have my dice here. And each one of the attributes under each of the virtues has its own little selection there. You roll a d8, and that is the random advance you get. So I roll a d8 on the chart. I rolled a 6. And selection 6 is melee weapon. So John McClane also knows his way around a melee weapon. So he gets an advance there, goes from a d8 -1 to a d8. And the reason it goes from a d8 -1 to a d8 and like not a d8 -2 is because the difficulty levels and target numbers are so compacted that I think a d8 -2 would be too oppressive. That's why it's only a d8 -1. Excuse me. And pardon me. And then finally, you roll on the recent life event chart. So on the recent life event chart, these are random things that could happen to your character, and I'm going to randomly roll there. You roll a d12 and a d8 and add them together on the list, and I will roll 2. That's a 3. So number 3 is, it's called Caught Red-Handed. So you run on your events, Caught Red-Handed. And I leave it up to the player to determine, to say what caught red-handed means. But what it does is it gives the character a +2 to their deceit virtue. So it goes from 3 to 5. And that was something that just recently happened, like just before you start the game. So you really can't go back, and I don't think you can go back and change anything because the chart literally says recent life event. So that just happened to John McClane in the setting. And then the next step in the process is to buy gear. And buying gear is kind of a group process in this game. The characters add up their leadership and collaboration score, and that determines how much gear they can purchase. And that's the process. So this is what John McClane would look like in my game. Actually, at the end of the character creation process, nope, it's not over yet. You purchase gear, and then you go down and do your finishing touches really quickly. You buy your weapons, you buy your armor, which is a party process. And then you get 6 advances of your attributes that you can do any way you want. And